In our world today, from a very young age, we're taught to work hard. We work hard for good grades, which then leads to a good job, which leads to a good salary, and then to a respectable and confident life. Our whole society is based off a you do good and you shall receive system, which motivates every single one of us to try hard and to gain the things we want. I can remember ever since elementary school, I wasn't ever really interested in math or science, but I always tried my best to please my parents because I'd never want to feel the guilt of bringing home a C+ or lower. My parents gave me such a wonderful life. It was so different compared to theirs. All the opportunities I have to be successful is so much higher than the opportunities that they had. So if I were to disregard them and get bad marks and not do well in school and to not do it as they want, it'd be very disrespectful and shameful. Our lives, especially at a younger age, is all about earning the respect and acceptance of others. That's why whenever we do something unacceptable or shameful, we feel guilty. And that's why whenever we do something unacceptable or shameful, we always change or adapt just to be accepted again. So in my case, whenever I got bad grades, I'd get extra help going at lunch and study much harder to get better grades and to please my parents and feel accepted. The idea of right or wrong or being accepted is very predominant throughout the novel Life of Pi written by Ian Martel. In the novel Life of Pi, it talks about a boy from India. Pi is just like any other ordinary child. He attended school, he had chores, and was always kept busy helping around the house or with his parents. His father owned a zoo, which means that he spent a lot of time on the farm or in the zoo spending time with animals, which made him later in the book have a greater appreciation for animals, and it also touched on the spiritual side. Pi was a very adventurous character. He was always questioning everything and was also very religious. At birth he was Hindu, later became a Catholic, and then at the age 15 became Muslim. However, the government of India became really greedy and money hungry, so they passed martial law. Unfortunately, Pi's family didn't like the idea of martial law, so they packed their bags, sold everything, and began their new life in Canada. Unfortunately, as they began their journey on the boat passed through a storm and took turns for the worse. But the novel doesn't end there. Pi managed to survive onto a lifeboat, and on the lifeboat he was companioned by a hyena, a zebra, a Bengal tiger, and an orangutan. So Pi is packed into this one lifeboat with all these creatures. So over time, of course, due to hierarchy and survival needs, blood is shed. So after the brutal killings of each animal, the rest of the novel is just Pi and the Bengal tiger, which he names Richard Parker. And as the novel progresses, Pi is finding his spiritual awakening and deciding every single day between immoral and moral actions, and is living either life or death on that one boat. So after so many days of living on the boat and a few encounters like finding an island and coming across a sailor, which Richard Parker kills, they finally land ashore in Mexico. And once they are ashore in Mexico, Richard Parker, the Bengal tiger, flees the scene and is never to be seen, and Pi breaks down and cries. So Pi was taken in by the Japanese officials, which were the people that were responsible for the boat Pi and his family boarded on. They took him in for questioning and wanted a complete summary of what happened on the boat, since he was the only one that survived. But the Japanese officials just can't believe the story about the animals and surviving on a survival boat with a human. So after some time of making Pi feel comfortable and opening him up, he finally confesses that so the animals weren't actually animals, it was humans. So yes, that means that Pi experienced a fight between human and human contact and cannibalism. The orangutan was an injured worker, the hyena was a French cook, the zebra was his mother, and the Bengal tiger, also known as Richard Parker, was actually Pi. So yes, Pi does kill people, and Pi is a cannibal. Yes, life of Pi. So as you can see, there's lots of immoral actions, a decision of life or death, and since there wasn't any social construct or any laws, Pi did what he had to do, and he felt guilty about it. He told officials the story about animals, but of course that just didn't make sense. So he had to tell the truth, and of course the truth wasn't pretty. But as you can see, Pi knew it was wrong, and he felt guilty about it. and he came up with this cover-up story so it made it sound justifiable and acceptable. So he adapted and changed just to be accepted. So yeah, after hearing about that terrible and cruel story, the officials agreed to just to continue on with the animal story, and it'd be more acceptable. So later they published the full story of the wreckage into the newspaper using the animal story, because who wants to read about cannibalism and a kid eating and killing others? I believe that teenagers should read this book because it helped me understand that when a person's ashamed of their actions, they will try to dissociate themselves from them. For me, it was to change up my tendencies and become a whole different person, just so I could be accepted, get my marks up even though I didn't want to, but I did it. For Pi, it was to create Richard Parker, who was a other character that he pushed aside and gave him all these personality traits and allowed him to kill and eat other people when really it was just Pi. So he disassociated himself and gave all that blame and guilt and shame to his other persona, Richard Parker. So the idea of justifying actions and doing immoral actions is very predominant in this book. In my first quote, so the first quote is, "I will further confess that driven by the extremes of my needs and madness to which it pushed me, I ate some of his flesh. I mean small pieces, little strips, that when dried by the sun looked like ordinary animal flesh, then slapped into my mouth nearly unnoticed." First, the word driven means to be conducted or placed in a situation. So in this quote, it shows that out of all the extremes and out of all the possibilities, Pi had to do it, and he knew it was wrong to eat human flesh, but he did it because he had to, which was driven by his needs. Pi was also a vegetarian. What are the odds, right? But anyways, he had to eat human flesh. He knew it was wrong, and he justified it by saying that it looks like ordinary animal flesh. So the next quote is, This was a terrible cost of Richard Parker. He gave me my own, but at an expense of taking one. He ripped the flesh of the man's frame and cracked his bones." So after coming into contact with another sailor, of course driven by survival needs and lack of social construct, Pi kills a sailor, eats his flesh, and takes everything that he had in order to survive, of course. Why else? First, the phrase, "taking one," talks about how Richard Parker gives him life by taking another, which was a sailor. First, the words "terrible cost" signifies how an item or good can be priced or high, or a terrible deed must be done in order to get that good. So Pi realizes that killing another person is wrong, but by doing that, it literally gave him life. And he used Richard Parker as an excuse to make it sound right, because by killing the sailor, it gave him more goods and more food. But anyways, it literally gave him life, and he used Richard Parker as an excuse and disassociated himself from himself and used Richard Parker as an external character. The hyena died, neither whining nor whimpering, and Richard Parker killed without a sound. After witnessing the death of his mother, Pi is filled with anger and seeks revenge. First, killed without a sound signifies how fast and inhumane he killed the French cook, and says that Richard Parker did it because he never would have. So as you can see, with all the quotes that are provided and throughout the summary, the book is about how every person will come through decisions, either inhumane or humane, and all these decisions are based off the need to survive or a social construct. Pi realizes that all the things he did, killing the sailor, eating human flesh, and killing other humans, is very bad and wrong. And especially him being religious, he went against all of them. But in order to survive and to live and to prosper, he did what he had to do. I believe that teenagers should read this book because it helped me understand that whenever a person does an action that they're ashamed of, they will try to disassociate themselves from them. So to summarize, we live in a society that all our actions is based off earning the respect or feeling accepted. And that was found in the Life of Pi novel, in my personal story, and even all around you. Fashion trends, music, and again, thank you for listening.